So welcome to this short video. This is Niall, who does all the cooking here at the Burren Yoga Centre. I know Niall doesn't like me calling him a food guru, but in my mind this guy is a food guru. So Niall is going to introduce a few of the dishes that we cook here and hopefully explain and get the idea across to you how this really good cooking can help you feel better in your life.
Great, thanks Dave. So I'm Niall, I'm the chef here at the Yoga Centre. I've been here for about a year, and so I'm just going to go through a little bit about what we do at the Yoga Centre and the food that we're going to cook today, okay? So we basically use as much local organic produce that we can. So our main supplier of veg is Beachlawn Organic in Galway, and then the main supplier of our dry goods is Independent Irish Health Foods, which is in Cork. So as much local produce as we can get. We also grow herbs here at the centre, and we also have a compost facility at the centre as well. So it's like, how do we keep things local, and how can we do as much for ourselves as well? So today what we're going to do is we're going to do a mushroom and leek crumble. So it's a very simple main dish that can be used in a meal. And we have the recipe then just in the link below, so just click on that and have all the information in there of what you need. The recipe is for 4 people, and if you want to do it for 2 or for less, then please feel free to change it around. It's also set up for vegetarian, and it can also be vegan, so you can sub out some of the cheese if you want to. Okay. We're going to just start making this leek and mushroom crumble now, so I'll just guide us through the ingredients here, and then I'll show you on the stove then what we're going to do with it. So we're going to use a little bit of butter, as it says in the recipe. Use a little bit of butter, and we're going to use olive oil. We use olive oil from the Real Olive Oil Company. It's very high quality olive oil. We have 1 mushroom here, which is diced, and then we have some 2 minced garlic, and then we have the leek here, which has been chopped down, and then we have, these are chestnut mushrooms. These are from Beachlawn. They're very, very beautiful chestnut mushrooms. And then we grow in the centre here, we grow our own herbs. So we have mint and oregano and thyme. It's very, very simple to grow your own herbs. So we have oregano here and thyme from the garden, and if you have a bit of rosemary, that's good as well. And then we use Oatly, and you can either use rice flour, which is gluten free, or you can use a regular flour, and this is just to make the roux afterwards. Okay, so the first thing we do here is grab a medium-sized pot, one with a good base if you can. So I'm going to cook off the mushroom first, and the reason for that is there's a lot of moisture in mushroom, and if I start cooking everything together, sometimes the mushroom is underdone. So I'm going to cook off the mushrooms first, and then in the same pan, then we'll cook off the rest of the filling. So we put in the butter. And this is on a medium heat now, and then I'm going to use a little bit of olive oil. And the reason we use both is the olive oil is a good supporter of, it's a good medium, fat is a good medium for flavour, and we use the butter because butter and mushroom work really, really well together as a flavour, so we're going to put them in like that. So put them together, take the mushrooms, pop them in, whenever the butter starts to bubble a little bit, you'll hear it, put in all the mushroom. Can you stir while I'm doing this? So just when you're cooking the mushrooms, now is a good time to put on the oven. So we use 180 degrees Celsius for a normal fan oven. So I'll put that on now, and then it'll be well ready then by the time we're good to go. Breathing like babies. So now the mushrooms have released a lot of the moisture, they're a little bit smaller, and you can get the aroma, you can smell whenever it's done. You can give them a taste, see how they are. Now that the mushrooms are done, I'm going to pour them out to the side. Back on the heat again, quite low heat. So this time I'm going to use just olive oil, because the olive oil works well with the leek. So about a tablespoon of olive oil. Put in all the onions. So we let the onion then cook for maybe 5 to 7 minutes. We're looking for it to be a little bit translucent. At this point I normally put in a little bit of salt. It releases the flavour from the onions. So I'm using the same pan. I haven't washed it. It's not necessary because it's all going into the same dish. So let them cook away on a kind of a medium to low heat for about 5 to 6 minutes. And we're looking for them to go a little bit translucent, but not so brown. And if the onion gets a little bit stuck to the bottom, you can add a little bit of water. That's fine in the moment. So we planted these thyme summer last year. And so this spring now they've all come up. Amazing to have fresh produce from the garden. So now we've just de-stalked the thyme and the oregano, and that just means whenever we're eating that you're not going to get little ricks coming through. So the onion now is ready. So I'm going to add in, I'm going to turn down the heat a little bit. So the onion now is just about ready. It's starting to go brown. A little bit translucent, it's quite glistening, and you can smell it's got the aroma of nicely cooked onion. So now we can start adding in the rest of the ingredients. So next in I'm going to take the garlic. Garlic burns very quickly, so you never put in garlic at the beginning with the onion. Then I'm going to put in the leek. And then I'm going to put in all the herbs that we've just de-stalked, put them in as well. Give them a good stir through. So we're going to let this cook now all together for maybe another 7 to 8 minutes. We want the leeks to start getting a little bit soft, and in the meantime as well, if it does get a little bit too dry, just add a little bit of water and steam off the veg. So the flavour from the onion, the flavour from the garlic will start coming through, and it'll start to release the flavour from the herbs as well. So just bring it through for a little bit, maybe 7 or 8 minutes, it's fine. So the leek now is nice and soft. You can see them starting to break apart. That's been about 8 to 10 minutes now altogether. So I'm going to add back in the mushroom. Mix that through. So there's a little bit of moisture in there at the moment. So what I'm going to do is add in the flour. So as I said before, this is either rice flour, which is gluten-free, or you can use any other gluten-free flour, or you can use just plain flour if you don't have any sensitivities. So what the flour does is it starts to soak up the juice, and this is the beginning of a roux, but this is a much easier way of doing a roux. So you can see now it's a lot drier. So I'm going to let the flour cook off just a little bit. And whenever that's cooked off for a few minutes, and we'll start adding the milk. So we use Oatly here in the yoga center because it's just very good quality oat plant-based drinks. And so that's out of all, we've used lots of different plant-based drinks, soy and hemp and rice. But actually we find that Oatly is the best for us anyway. So, and if you want, you can use just normal dairy milk as well. So add this in increments and stages, and that means you're going to get a nice smooth sauce. So I'll add in some milk, and then let that take shape with the flour, and then add in a little bit more. I'm going to turn up the heat ever so slightly. I'm going to put in a little bit more flour because I want it to be a little bit more saucy. Great. So as you can see at this point, you have some nice sauce, mushrooms are cooked, all the leeks are cooked, all the herbs are in there. You can give it a little bit of taste now and see if you need any. I always try and get in a number of components. There's a little bit of leek in there, a little bit of mushroom. I'm going to put in a little bit more salt. That's tasty now. We have a nice sauce. And now we're going to create the crumble. Now we're going to make the crumble to put on top now that we have all the mushroom leek sauce. Okay, so I'm going to just explain the individual components here. So as on the recipe, this is 200 grams of organic oats. And this is 100 grams of ground almonds. And if you don't want to use ground almonds, that's fine. You can use flour instead, but this is gluten-free, so I want to keep it to ground almonds and also adds a richness to the crumble. And then we have 50 grams of Parmesan, and then we have about 100 grams of butter. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do here is as we do with pastry, we'll put everything into the bowl. So make sure your hands are washed, which mine are. And so we'll put the butter into the bowl. And we'll add all the other components. So the oats, almonds, and the Parmesan makes it really rich. So using your hands, you get in there. So what we're trying to do is break down the butter. Now the butter does need to be at room temperature, or it becomes very difficult to be able to do this. So just kind of like you're kneading a bread, you're using your fingertips to go through. So the way I cook is I have a recipe that I go by, and then there's always a little bit of fine tuning. So if it's too dry and I'm not getting the lumps of aggregate that I'm looking for, then I'll add a little bit more butter. And if it's too wet, as in there's too much butter and you're getting too many big lumps, then we'll just add a little bit more of the dry mix, i.e. a little bit more of the oats or a little bit more of the almonds. So just lightly going through, you can see now that we're starting to get some individual lumps, a little quite coarse. So for me this is turning into quite a nice crumble. Great. So you can see now there's nice little lumps in there, and there's also individual bits, and that's ready. Okay, so now we take the two components and put them together. So we have the mushroom, the leek. Just use a wooden spoon to get all the sauce out. In terms of size, I want a good layer of mushroom leek. And a nice layer of crumble on the top. I probably could have used a little bit of a smaller container, but this is fine. And then crumble, just add on by hand. Do it lightly, you don't want to be pressing it in. And the more lightness that we have in it, the more then the heat creates differences in texture. So if it's all pressed in, then we have this one texture, but if we have all these lumps of butter on the top, the butter starts to burn, the butter starts to heat, and then we have these different textures. So we have the oven on from earlier at 180 degrees. So we can put this in straight away at 180 degrees, and it's going to be ready in between 30 and 40. And all you're looking for is a little bit of brown on the top, and you're looking for the smell. And that's it. Put it in the oven, about 2/3 high, 180 degrees. Set your timer, check it after 30 minutes, and then you may need another 5 to 10 minutes after that. And that's it. About 30-35 minutes are up now, so we just check, see where we're at. Good. You can hear it crackling away. So that's good for me. Slight brown around the edge. It's kept the crumble, and so that should be very tasty. So the crumble then can be served with maybe some mixed leaf. Do a little bit of dressing. You can have some fresh tomatoes, some cucumber, a little bit of onion. And if you wanted to also, you could have it as part of a full meal. You could do some roast potatoes as well, and you have a full meal with the crumble, roast potatoes, and a bit of salad.